Breaking news. DC government's corruption cesspool exposed in under 3 minutes. DC public schools is a putrid swamp of corruption, but everyone's turning a blind eye. The DCPS superintendents are neck-deep in corruption, yet everyone remains silent and complicit. It is an absolute disgrace, yet nobody seems to give a damn. City council members must take action. The evidence is overwhelming. Numerous complaints have been lodged with the DC Board of Ethics and Governmental Accountability against DCPS instructional superintendents, yet these ethical violations continue to be blatantly ignored. DCPS instructional superintendents have been found holding dual employment with a major DC government contractor, a situation so deeply entangled that it reeks of conflict of interest and outright extortion. This is not a minor oversight. It is a blatant abuse of power and public trust. I urge all DC council members insist that BIGA do its job. Ensure transparency, impartiality, and zero tolerance for bias. Instead, BIGA has selectively investigated one superintendent. 9 DCPS instructional superintendents control the budgets and leadership of a dozen schools each, including the authority to evaluate school principals. In 2020, when several principals and I raised concerns about these unethical practices, we were met not with support, but with retaliation. Our employment was terminated for daring to speak out. Our only crime was exposing the financial conflicts and dual roles of DCPS leaders. These allegations, first brought forward in my 2020 whistleblower complaint, have since been substantiated. The evidence points to a disturbing pattern of extortion, misappropriated funds, and a compromised oversight system. In March 2025, 5 years after my initial complaint, BEGA finally found DCPS instructional superintendent for Cluster 4, guilty of multiple ethical violations. Still, the revelation of Cluster 4 superintendent's dual employment is only the tip of the iceberg. My 2020 complaint to the Office of the Inspector General (OIG) detailed serious ethical violations by Cluster 1 and 2 superintendents, who held simultaneous employment with DCPS and the contractor relay for the longest periods. In July 2021, Cluster 1 superintendent resigned and Cluster 2 superintendent resigned on June 20, 2025. There is overwhelming evidence that superintendents engaged in the same misconduct as Cluster 4, and for a much longer time. This is not an isolated incident. The pattern is undeniable. Ethical violations are endemic among DCPS instructional superintendents. Council members, I urge you to ignite a wave of justice and accountability. Yet again, the public trust has been violated, and only decisive action can restore trust. And once again, the community demands transparency, fairness, and an end to this culture of corruption. Let us not allow these inexcusable violations to be swept under the rug for another 5 years. The time for action is now. 3.